Does the outside ambient temp up north affect the longevity? If you follow me for any length of time, you know that we used to run the Alaska Haul Road from Fairbanks to Prudhoe Bay. We had 11 trucks. We did that for a number of years before we came to North Dakota and ultimately to Texas. And I was talking the other day about building this 600 horsepower V model and how we used to have 3 of them in our fleet and we would run them up north. So he's asking if the cooler temperatures allow for more longevity in your engine. And it's actually not really how it works. Your cooling fan is going to do the same job no matter where you're at. It also is summertime in Alaska like it is anywhere else. You know, if it becomes summertime there, it actually gets really hot. It can get up into the 90s, so it's not too much different than anywhere else. What you have in Alaska that you don't really have anywhere else in the lower 48 is a constant climbing hills all the way to Prudhoe Bay and all the way home. It's only 500-mile trip and it could take up to 14 hours where you're averaging 32, 33 miles an hour, and that's because you're spending so much of your time down in the low side, pulling as hard as you can on 18 or even 20, 24% grades. And legal loads start out there at 96,000. So when we were rebuilding engines in Alaska, it was a whole different world. When we came down here to the lower 48, the biggest surprise for me when I started rebuilding engines down here is we would open them up and they would still have crosshatch inside of them. Crosshatch in a engine with over 400,000 or 500,000 miles on it is something I had never seen before. Down here in the lower 48, you'll open up an engine and it might have 1,000,000 miles on it and you'll still see some of the crosshatch. You're not going to see that on the engines up in Alaska because they get their asses worked off. They get worked to death, quite literally. The average lifespan of a Cummins ISX on the Alaska Haul Road is about 400,000 before it needs to be rebuilt. A Caterpillar, you're lucky if you can see about 600,000 before it needs to be rebuilt. So the answer really is no. You're not going to have more longevity just because you're in a colder area. It really comes down to what kind of workload they're having put on them, and you're not going to see a heavier workload than you're going to see in Alaska. I don't care if you haul heavier than shit, you're 130,000, 140,000 everywhere you go. That doesn't compare to pulling grades and getting down the low side, lugging that thing down and working the piss out of it every single trip, trip after trip, day after day, year after year. Anyway, I hope that helps clear that up. You guys have a good one.